Hi everyone, and welcome to Liquid Evil Gaming. This video is going to be about the PlayStation 4 error code ce-34878-0. I made a video briefly touching upon it with the latest patch 1.7, and I actually got more views of that video than I have almost any other video I've had, which granted still isn't a lot with the size of my channel, but whatever. It's obvious a lot of people are still experiencing this error, so I figured I would touch upon what solved it for me, or rather not one individual thing, but a bunch of things I did at once, so I'm not sure which particular one did it. But since I've followed these steps, I have not had the error for over 2 months, knock on wood, and it's been good so far. I've had people respond to me on the forums when I posted these fixes, and they've also said it's helped them, so I figured I would share them in a video. I will post all the relevant links to this in the description for the video, so you have anything that you need access to. That said, some of these steps you may need someone tech savvy, and it's not something I can explain in detail since everyone's router and firmware, etc. is going to be different. So one of these steps particularly, you may need a fairly tech-savvy friend to help you out with. Excuse me. So, from the beginning, here we go. I'm more or less just going to summarize the post that I put up. More or less, this will not probably work for everyone, as what's causing this error seems to be different for everyone, which is why I think Sony shied away from addressing it too much, because it is different in many scenarios. I'm not convinced, like I said, that my fixes will work for everyone, but they worked for me, and they've worked for other people. So, first of all, set up a static IP address on the PlayStation 4 and set it into a DMZ zone on your router. Effectively, this gives it full connectivity to the internet with no firewall or anything else in its way, which for a computer would be a very bad idea due to security issues. For a console, really isn't much of a worry. Also, the static IP address too, again, I'm not sure if that had anything to do with it, but it's just easier to eliminate certain other things if you put it in a static IP rather than having one automatically assigned. Plus, you need a static IP to use DMZ anyways. Okay, second one, and I know some people have heard this before, but I have a bit more detail to go on. Sony keeps telling you reinitialize the console. Okay, well that's good and fine. That never worked for me either. One of the steps I did do, though, was a full reinitialize, replacing the firmware. Not just reinitializing the console, not just making sure it's updated, but a full replacement of the entire firmware software on the console. So you really need to make sure, because when you go to the PlayStation website, that's another thing. When you do this, don't try to download the file through the PlayStation 4. Go to the Sony's website, put the files on a USB stick. I'll explain how. And I'll have the links to those files in the description for the video, because that seemed to work. Through the PlayStation 4, I believe you can only download the update anyways. I don't think you can download the full replacement firmware. But just to eliminate any issues of possibly going wrong, I'd recommend doing it this way regardless. Anyway, so when you put the file into the USB stick, make sure it's FAT32 formatted, and create a folder in caps named PS4. Inside of that folder, create a folder called Update, again in all caps, and put the file in that folder. That way the PlayStation can see the file, because if you just put the file right on the USB stick, it will not be able to see it. The other thing is to put the PS4 into safe mode so you can do all this, you have to hold down the power button until it beeps twice, which takes about 10 seconds. And then you want to select the option that's a full reinitialize with replacing firmware, and select USB as your source. And as long as you follow the instructions I told you for the USB stick, it should find that file and you can go ahead and proceed. The other thing, and again, I know Sony's mentioned this before too, but I would also rebuild the database in safe mode. Again, I'm not sure if this is a particular thing that worked. If I had to guess, I would say the previous step I mentioned, or the first one, was what fixed it probably for me. But still, if you're going to do all this anyways, you might as well take the extra step. The other thing is many routers have a setting called IP fragmentation. Without going into a bunch of technical jargon about what that is, basically speaking, just make sure it's enabled, because it can cause issues with certain games and network transmission across PSN if it's not. This is going to be something different for every router, every software version out there, so I really can't explain to you in depth where it is or how to enable it, because your router is going to be different. Either Google it and with your brand and model, for your router, or ask a tech-savvy friend. I'm sorry, it's not something I can explain in more detail, just because it is going to be different for just about everyone. So forgive me, please. Anyways, I took all these steps, I'd say 2+ months ago, and I haven't seen the error pop up once. Either just pop up at all, or in the worst case, where it comes up and erases your save data. In neither case, I haven't had it happen since I've done all this. So it's been fantastic. So these are the steps I would basically take. As I said, at the end of this, I look at the description. I'll have all the links that you need in there. One last final warning. Many of the steps in this, including reinitializing and rebuilding the database, will erase all the data on your PS4. This includes updates, saved game data, etc., etc. So make sure that you're okay with that before proceeding with this. But I have a feeling if this error is frustrating you to that point, you're probably not going to mind anyway. One other step I forgot to mention is I also disabled cloud saving of game data, automatic or otherwise, because that always seemed to cause a problem with me. So I disabled that entirely, and that seemed to be fine. But again, if you want to back up any of that, make sure you do it before performing these steps, because you will lose all your saved game data, patches, everything else. That's all going to have to be re-downloaded. So please do bear that in mind. Anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if this worked for you after you perform all these steps. Don't just perform one or two of them, because that probably won't do any good. Do perform them all and let me know if it solved your error. Like I said, it probably won't work for everyone, but even if it works for a couple of people, then I'm more than happy to spend the time making this video. And again, do look at the video description. I'll have the links to everything you need. Thank you for watching. Have a good one, and never game's over.